Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. I'm traveling again today, so there's just audio for those of you watching the YouTube feed. You're not getting our ugly mugs. You're getting the audio though, and we appreciate that. And forgive my voice as I battle whatever sort of silliness I've been battling this week. It'll be all right. You may hear me cough in the middle of a segment. It's not professional, but it is fresh content. That's a good thing. Florida State, Virginia Tech, and baseball. And more importantly, for something Tom and I can talk about right off the bat is I like it. It goes back over a week. Mike Norvell seems to be a guy who understands the level of, intensity and physicality that needs to be ratcheted up a year ago after a team has been soft. I know we didn't get a chance to talk about it yesterday, Tom, but going back to Tuesday, he was upset. He has, Corey's column pointed this out. This is, I believe, maybe the first time ever in his entire tenure here at Florida State that Mike has been a consistent point of calling out practice when it's poor. He never really did it. He never did it in the past. He would, especially since you and I and the rest of the beat could go to those practices, we knew the days they had bad practices. We knew when they didn't have, listen, this has been such a wild ride. They've had an undefeated regular season. They've had, obviously, a 2-10 season. You don't get much more disparate seasons than that. But even in the great season and even in the poor season, they would have bad practices. It happens. I think people do, but he didn't call it out. I was a little disappointed with focus today. And then that would be kind of the end of it. He wouldn't really say anything more than that. Now he's expressly stating that, he's upset with the lack of intensity in certain situations or focus or any number of complaints, which is probably a good thing after what happened last year.
Yeah, I think what he's happy about in this situation on Thursday is that the team has a pulse. And I think he was concerned that a lot of the team last week did not have a pulse, period. This is where we were talking about him drawing the line, and he was flagging things immediately. If you see a problem, you let the world know that it is a problem, and that's how you hold your players to a certain standard. And so that's what he was doing late last week. He did it again on Tuesday.
Right.
And the whole thing is, I think there's a bit of an overcorrection yesterday because reading between the lines, clearly there was a fight or two that broke out in practice because he's talking about that they need to be in better control of their emotions. So to me, that's obviously code for there were a lot of scuffles. Coaches had to break up an incident or two or maybe three.
Good.
And he was happy about it, frankly, because he's like, oh, okay, at least I know now they care. But what they're trying to do is push them through one more day today because they're going back to back, and then they have the weekend off. So this is, I think, what he's finally seeing is that he's been pressing them to give a crap, and they're starting to show that they do, which is kind of sad. But I think he understands that we're in a sad time, and I need them to snap out of it, and maybe they're starting to snap out of it.
Well, and I would probably summarize some of this similarly, but I think that he's weeding people out. And I think you're going to get what emerges from there is the group that does care and is tired of this nonsense. So a good analogy might be if a father is yelling at his kids and he's got, let's say, 4 or 5 kids, and 2 or 3 of those kids are just not doing what they've been told to do many times, but the others are. It's not their fault. They've done their chores. They've done all the things they've been asked to do. And now they're being lumped in with the ones who did not. And dad is chastising all of them, telling them that none of them are going to get to go to the movies this weekend, or none of them are going to get ice cream this weekend. And so the ones that have been doing the right thing are turning to the other siblings going, look here, man, I'm about done with this. This is not going to work. We're going to have some problems here. You see it obviously in many a boot camp movie where Private Pile is beaten with soap because, damn it, man, I had to run an extra 5 miles today because your fat ass stored a donut in your Foot Locker. We're not doing this. So I think if you're going to go ahead and take that tact, it's the right tact, first of all, because you ought not really be having these discussions. But we are on the heels of 2-10, and I think that he wanted to set a bar very high and a challenge. And I think there are people, from what I can tell, I'll just say that from being out there, that do care, that are passionate. We interviewed one of them this week that is passionate, that does care, and many of those transfers probably are looking around like, what happened here? What's going on? And there are some holdovers that also don't want a repeat of last year, who have been working very hard to try to ensure that wouldn't happen. I would cite Omar Graham, amongst others, who was on the team a year ago. Justin Cryer was on the team a year ago, and these guys know that wasn't going to get it. And I saw that. I'll just say I've seen one scrimmage. Those two guys played really hard. They flew around with the football. They were hitting. They cared deeply. So my sense is that was one scrimmage, that they've been that way, judging by coach's comments. There were some other guys who were on last year's team, Tom, that I'm not so sure were as invested as some of the other players. And so he's weeding these people out. He is finding out who wants to play and who doesn't. And along the way, it creates a tense environment and an intensity in practice. And so I think things are going to get listen, I think it'll carry over to the fall to some extent. But yes, he's desperately trying to get to the bottom of it so he can decide who he needs to move on from.
Yeah, I think the way we described it last week is that he's going through the stages of grief. He's mourning the loss of these kids who were ruined by 2-10 and who were failed by either himself, the previous coaching staff, or both. And they're too far gone. And, he's hoping against hope that some of them put it together, before they run out of time, which is just a little over a week from now. Also understand that the transfer portal window opens next Wednesday. So it's a 10-day window. It runs next Wednesday, the 16th, through the 25th of April. You're looking at a finite window where I think some hard conversations are going to be had, maybe over the weekend, early next week, and he's going to send a message or two. And this is what I said a couple weeks ago, and it looks like it's lining up. I was hoping to see eyebrows raised for Florida State players leaving the program in the transfer portal market, because to me at that point, that means that Mike Norvell is willing to say, you don't have a place in my program because you have not earned a place in my program, at least with a couple of guys, to send a clear message to his roster that this is not going to work anymore. We saw it last year when we were going to spring camp and those practices, that there were kids that just, they weren't ever going to achieve here. Now, you brought them in, but this is the ugly nature of the business, especially in the NIL era. We expected to see a lot of defections, a lot of kids leaving in the spring window, and it didn't happen. To the point where in the summer we're saying to ourselves, how are they going to make the numbers work? We understand that never check the numbers, that they'll always make it work. But, man, I thought for sure some kids would get the message. I think the message is being sent loud and clear this time around, and I think that's Mike Norvell reacting to many of the mistakes that happened last year.
Yeah, this is a lot to unpack. I feel like we just pulled on a string and we're about to have to really, this could be an hour and a half straight of this, because I will tell you, Tom, you're hitting right notes there. And I think that we can add to it. It's very complicated. And this is where I empathize with Mike Norvell. I blame him and I empathize with him. And I have been, I think most people realize on the heels of 2-10, I haven't exactly been warm and fuzzy about what happened. I believe that any other situation would have led to his firing. And I would have been okay with it, because you can't go 2-10 at Florida State. You cannot, ever. But it happened. All right. So let's figure out a way out. I also like Mike. He's also responsible for some real successes here. And so it's complicated, because I think Mike was too nice. There were players, you're talking about this right now, Tom. There were guys, and it gets hard not to name names, but there were players who revealed to you they weren't how about this? There were players that revealed to you they weren't good enough. That's a better way of saying it. Not every kid that came through here that didn't contribute, lacked effort. They just weren't good enough.
And to be clear, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't think that last year I mean, I was here for a few practices that I saw in spring. I wasn't, thinking to myself, oh, that kid just doesn't care to be here. It was just that you're not Florida State material if we're coming off of all of these consecutive wins, save for the bowl game. And that's where we were in that moment in the history of the program. You're saying you had 19 in a row, you had Opt-Out Fest 2023 in that bowl game. Then this can't be a kid that is carrying a scholarship. If you whiffed on your eval, that's on you, pal. Or if you didn't develop properly, that's on you. But we're all wasting each other's time here. And I think that's one of those, I mean, that is a brutal way of speaking about it, but these are professional and brutal times in college football.
Well, he had to come to a conclusion they're not recruiting well enough, and that is on him. He had to come to a conclusion his staff, many of whom he fired, were not developing them enough, the ones that they did get. And, the record on the field is the record on the field. So if you don't have a come to Jesus moment for yourself in that situation, then you never will. You're never going to get it. I think if you're forced.
That was one of the alarming things about last year, though, we had this discussion in real time when they dipped into the portal and you're grabbing 15, 18 dudes last year. I forget what the total was. Does Mike at some point stop and go, why do I have to keep on going to the portal? Why do I have to? Why is this a must? Why isn't this a luxury add-on process? Why is this something that is comprising the bulk of my starting roster year after year after year? And it still didn't occur to him until he was forced to through the results on the field.
Well, that's because they had good results. That's because he was successful in mining the portal in a way that others weren't. But now everybody's caught up, and everybody has a collective, and everybody's got the means by which to go, and they all recognize the value of it. I think where Mike gets a lot of credit, partly born out of necessity, is that he recognized he could overhaul an entire roster and be immediately competitive if he hit on those assessments in the portal. And he did it. He did it. And, that's all well and good until you whiff. And then he whiffed on all of them. I mean, that portal class last year is butt cheeks. And, he ended up obviously finding out the hard way that I got nothing else to fall back on if I miss on these kids in the portal because I haven't recruited well enough. And I think that the comeuppance there is a slap in the face. The reality is, again, everybody now, even those that were hell-bent against it, uses the portal. So the competition's steeper. The price is too high for average players in the portal. It's just too high, especially when you're up against it after a spring, let's say. And you're going to have to overpay for an average, the equivalent of a 2 or 3 star lineman. I mean, you don't want to do it. And I think, these are interesting times for a lot of reasons because, all right, on the one hand, we can go micro and macro. The micro is the day-to-day, him getting on these guys, weeding out the players that don't want to try hard, don't want to have the requisite, as he says, edge or intensity in the day-to-day operation. If you're still not going to show me you care and fight after we go 2-10 together, then I got to get you out of here. And the best way for me to do that is to really insist that this is going to be the standard of a daily practice. And if you won't match that, well, then you've told me what my answer is. I know now you got to go at the end of spring, which is what you're hoping to see, mass exodus. That's fine. I think that's kind of happening. I agree. I believe that's what he's doing here. The other problem is, though, is that while this is why I've consistently said I'm worried about whether or not Mike can survive this undertaking. The failure at that level, at that magnitude, is such that, okay, great, I'm glad you understand. But the problem you have now is this is such a reclamation project, and I don't know that you'll have the ability or the time, because what happens when you succeed this year? Let's just operate under the assumption that they're much better. Well, you and I have laid bare what we think is going to happen. We think that there's a good chance Tony White will go take a head coaching job somewhere. And now one of the guys that helped you get this turned around because of his intelligence and intensity will be out the door. And guess what he's going to do? He's going to take some of them defensive players with him. That's what he's going to do. And then you're going to have to start over there with a new coordinator and some new players. And then, I don't know, but what if the offense is the reason that this thing gets all the way turned around and Arkansas's job comes open and Gus Malzahn decides to take it down the road and because he gets another opportunity? I just think you set yourself up in this process to where you're going to have to jump over many bars now, many of which you had already successfully surpassed. And you're having to do these things that you worked so hard to put in the past. It's just a shame. It's just a shame.
Well, yeah, I think, yes, without having that total discussion again from last week, this is a multi-pronged revival process. In order to stay alive, stay in the sun, you're going to have success on the field this year. And I think in that moment of him choosing his coordinators, he says, I don't care if they leave. I have to get to the point where they're happy. Everybody's happy in this building. They don't want me fired when these guys take the next opportunity, if they do, over the next 1 year or two. I think, I personally, we're entering the 2025 season. I don't expect either of these coordinators in 2027 to still be here.
No.
They might both be gone sooner than that. But I'm just, if you have the success that I think he's going to have this year, again, not relative to the Florida State standard, but relative to the he won't get fired standard, I think he's going to have that bounce back year this season. That's part one. There is a part two that comes behind it, but we're living not in the end game, but in the first moment. To liken it to something that we all watched yesterday in a little town in Georgia, Mike Norvell was on the 15th fairway. He was -4 on the round. He was cruising, and he hits a beautiful shot, but the committee kicks it over the green. Okay. And now we say, well, we could still make something really good out of this. And then he chips the ball in the water, and it all spins out of control, and he shoots a 72, and you're back to square one. Maybe the analogy isn't perfect because he shot more like 75 or 76 to this point, but he was in prime position, and he's going to have to climb out of it right now. What we're trying to do in the moment, we don't want to have to do this, but this is the reality we're living in, is we're health checking all the time. The fact that he's willing to flag these things in real time, report them honestly to the media when he doesn't have to, is a good sign for health. Next week with the portal, I'm not saying there have to be 10 kids that leave, but you got to show some kids the door. That would be another health check. And if they do that, okay, we're taking these little baby steps. I hate that we have to applaud a par and we say, thank God he made par. But that's where we are right now until we can have the next discussion. This is the one we have before us.
It's a fun analogy because the problem is that even par is not the end of the world at Augusta National. Some good players who didn't double-double shot even par yesterday, and we probably thought higher of their rounds because they didn't have a disastrous hole mixed in there. They also just didn't have a highest of highs either. And so we went, oh, nice even round for Morikawa. Okay, we'll see. Got to make some more putts tomorrow, that kind of thing. Meanwhile, Rory's out here. It could have been -5, -6. Instead, it's even. And so you're like, well, disappointing round. Well, it's the same round, but it's very disappointing, and it's rightfully disappointing. And now we'll see. At the same time, I don't know who Mike's Brandel Chambly will be, but I was listening to Brandel yesterday say, lest we forget how well Rory played for 14 holes, it's in him to go low tomorrow if he can put it behind him. Well, how low can the Florida State football program grow in the way of success, right? How many wins can they get to next year and put it behind them? That's what we're asking.
I think the difference in this analogy, it would be wonderful if Mike was capable of shooting 65 and winning 10 games this year. But I think the difference would be that you're waiting for round 3. You're going to have to survive round 2.
Yeah.
Fire a nice clean 70. 70
people come back to you.
Right. And then it's time to pounce. But I think he's taken the right approach with the coordinators he's gotten. Given Florida State's limitations coming off of 2-10, they closed strong in the class to get to square 2. But you're going to have to contort yourself to get from 2 to 3. I think that's the harder part. I think this is the easier part of the escape this season. But then the one after that is going to be more difficult. But let's get to the second one, because if you don't get to the second one, then this is all moot anyway.
Well, and the approach is going to be interesting. I want to kind of develop and have this conversation as well, because I think this involves what you're talking about. It's not just pushing guys and involving a level of intensity that might not have been there a year ago to find out who's in and who's out. There's a fundamental difference in the way that you have to approach your roster. I want to talk about that next. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
So the idea of changing, obviously, your approach after last year is not foreign to anybody, and certainly would seem necessitated by those results. And the other part of this is that I think Mike, it's going to be tough because he's got to. I think this is fundamentally against what he would like the world of college football to be, and I empathize with this part of it, but I don't have time for it anymore, and I don't think he does either. I hope he doesn't. You have to wrap your head around the level of professionalism that college football has taken hold, and that means it is a kill or be killed world. It is you smoke or get smoked, and then this is professional football. We see it all the time. It's a gladiator sport. It is a league of mercenaries, as we like to say. And what I mean by that is I don't begrudge players who ruthlessly stand their ground to get paid. It is the only way in which they can exercise any sort of authority over the situation or autonomy over a situation in which you and I, we work in the radio business. There are things that we are required to do and the skills that we have in order to do it. And there are a lot of ways to maybe work things out in contracts in the multimedia world and all that. In football, it's one way. I play football. You pay me handsomely to play football. I'm really good at what I do. I play this position. You know that. You pay me because of that. Now, if we have a disagreement, all I can do is withhold my ability. It's the only thing I can do. I can't talk to you. I'm paid for that physical thing that I do. So all I can do is withhold that physical thing and say, well, we're not having this conversation. I'm just not going to play.
Yeah, that's at the professional level. At the collegiate level, you could just say I'm entering the portal. You can leave. So in college, you have even more recourse, which is why coaches are all going to die younger than they ever have.
Well, it's also why it's a terribly flawed. Yeah, it's also why it's a terribly flawed system, though. They got to have multi-year deals, and we got to get past this unrestricted free agency. But in the interim, if that is the stark reality of a situation, then as a coach, when a player's not good enough, and that's on you for not evaluating well enough, this always is going to come back to the head man. It's always going to come back to your ability to recruit or not, or assess or project. But let's say you fail. Say you have a Jarrell Powers who can't play a lick, and you bring him in and you watch him most days ride the bike and not do a whole lot of anything. And at some point, and this sounds mean, it's not personal, but he's a good example. That's a player that we thought a lot of coming in from Texas as a tight end. And, sometimes you miss, and clearly they missed. And I wish Jarrell Powers the best wherever he is. I know he's not on this roster anymore, right? So anyhow, at some point you would have had to look out there on that practice field, Tom, is my point, and say, damn, I missed on Powers. I'm going to have to let him go. But he didn't want to do that. Mike doesn't want to do that. And many a coach doesn't want to do that. And the old ways of managing a roster, you wouldn't do that. It would be frowned upon. It's your fault. You missed the eval. You screwed it up. He's going to class. He's trying. He's just not good enough. And you can't just kick him to the curb. Now, later on, that became a real testy point of contention with everybody because, Saban would be ruthless. He would tell guys to take it on down the road. Certain coaches adopted that mentality, take it on down the road. Other coaches would say, well, that's not the right thing to do. I mean, he didn't do it. If he's going to class, if he's working hard every day, if he's in the gym, if he's in the meetings, if he's at practice, I can't just cut him free. That's my fault. Well, man, we don't live in that world anymore. We do not live in that world anymore. You don't have time. You don't. You got to figure this out. And these kids are being paid.
Yeah, this is where, I'm very pro player, but I'm also very pro professionalism of the sport, meaning that this would be something I'd have no problem with. This is a performance-based issue. You don't get enrolled in many cases. You're not enrolled in this university without the help of your athletic skills. And if those skills are not up to standard, then I don't have time for you in my program. So this is why I would cut on the coach's side of things. And I would say, and this is before NIL, Let's not pretend here. If you were a student and you got a scholarship here academically and you played, that's a bit of a different discussion, because I could probably convert you off of football schollies that you're here on the academic scholarship and you want to be here. As long as you want to be here, that's fine. You're a walk-on, that's fine. But if I'm using one of my 85, or in the near future here, one of my 105 on you, and you're not good enough, we understood the deal. The only reason I was talking to you in the first place is because I thought you were good enough.
Right.
And I get it, guilty consciences and so forth. But yes, we don't have that time anymore. And I think that's another good thing that comes out of this, is that
Correct.
We look at the sport for what it is, and we look at the industry for, this is performance-based. And if you're not good enough, then fine. I think why I'm rooting for a lot of kids being shown the door is because Mike has been saying repeatedly in his press conferences that it's not even getting to that place that you're talking about, that scenario you're describing, which is, well, they go to class and they try hard. Plenty of kids apparently aren't trying hard. So if they're not, and they're not good enough, why the hell do they wear the uniform? Get them the hell out of here and let them go ruin somebody else's culture.
Yeah, I think that a lot of fans wanted to hear that too. They didn't want to hear about imploring guys to find the edge. They don't like that. There was a misstep there to some extent. I understand Mike was sending messages in these press conferences and in the luncheon and all that. But I think a lot of fans, at least the ones I hear from, are like, hey, no. Stop that. We got to tell those kids to leave. We don't have any time for you to have them figure this out.
Yeah, when you say something like, well, there's a standard here, sometimes we need to talk about respect. Jesus.
Yeah, that wasn't good. I didn't like that. That was disconcerting, and I thought that was a last gasp sort of messaging to certain guys. I got a guess as to some of those guys. I think we all do. I think we all have a guess on one of those guys. I think he's really saddened by that. I think he's really frustrated by that. I mean, that was a big name and a big get and a big number and all the things. And I think he's just like, golly, man, I can't believe I'm having to bring you along like this still, and it's not just that guy, but. I mean,
well, look, this is where you have to revisit some of the talking points about how strict they were in the portal, choosing kids that were going to be culture fits and these little details they were looking for. Like, for example, I mean, this is stuff that we've talked about openly. Are they holding the door for their parent as they walk into the facility? I mean, if that is true, and that is something that you're holding a transfer to a standard for, and you're not even going to consider them if they don't respect their parents or like things like that, then if you're asking, I'll take questions in a moment, everybody, but there's a standard here, and sometimes we have to talk about, no, man, that standard is you're dismissed. You're gone out of the portal. You want to wait? I'll wait. You can announce it yourself and put out a nice little edit from Hayes Fawcett that says, I'm considering 4 schools and it's time for me. All glory. I'm going to the portal. That's fine, but you're the hell out of here. You don't get fall camp because you wasted your opportunity in spring.
Coaches struggle. All coaches, every coach I've ever encountered and had the good fortune of interviewing and getting to know, and there is a element of a God complex, for lack of a better term. That's probably not the right way to describe this, but I think coaches feel it's especially true if you can play, if you've got some ability, that they can save kids. They always want to save kids, and that's one of the beauties of football. I mean, I watched reclamation projects. I saw football save some kids' lives. You don't grow up in the game. You don't grow up playing the game and then getting into it as a coach without seeing countless examples of lives being turned around for the better because of the great game of football. I mean that sincerely. I think it's one of my favorite things about the game is that it's a tough game. It's a brutal game. It requires so much of you. It builds character in a lot of ways. If you do give everything you have to it, you build camaraderie. You learn how to overcome adversity. You figure out how to get along with people you wouldn't otherwise get along with from different cultures, different races, different communities, you name it. It's all there. And so I think when a guy comes up in the game like Mike did, and as he has openly stated about that being the men in his life, the dad in his life, if you will, is the game of football, then you probably take on a little bit of that. And you'd like to make it possible for guys to have a second and third and fourth chance to get it figured out, because you know that the end game is so important. But the sport is changing. I don't know that it's changing where there won't be great stories like that, but it is changing now that guys are paid straight out of high school. You don't have a lot of time. It's not the days of yesteryear, which weren't all obviously milk and honey, but there were those stories. I think that some of the things we'll be losing are those moments of willingness to be patient. I don't know that coaches anymore can really afford to do that. I know Mike can't. I mean, again, if I'm paying you good money, you are a high-profile recruit, and you come here and you don't have the requisite attitude and you're not giving me the effort, I might give you a year because you're young and I've invested in you and you have 5-star talent and perhaps tools. By year 2, man, you are taking up a roster spot that I could fill with a guy in a transfer portal very quickly, and he could hit the ground running, and I could win games.
Well, and also understand that this is a more honest era. The moment that kid shows out, if you nailed it and he's good, he's going to come back to you and demand more money, or I'm going to leave in the transfer portal. They're going to quickly turn on you because this is a business and they have representation. And that representation wouldn't be doing their job if after an 850-yard receiving freshman season, they don't come back and say, well, your highest paid guy had 700, mine had 850s entering year 2. Watch this 1,000-yard season. It's going to cost you X dollars. Because sure as hell, these coaches do the same thing anytime that they have a 10-win season themselves and their agent comes back to the university and needs an extension. So what I'm saying is I would hope that the more situations you have of kids renegotiating on the fly, it's happening with Nico at Tennessee right now. He's seeing the numbers that some of the quarterbacks got, like Carson Beck. He was at, according to Pete Nakos, 2.2, 2.4 million a year. He wants closer to 3.5. Like, hopefully these instances happening to the coaches create the urgency that you and I are talking about, which is, well, if you're good, then you're going to screw the whole thing up and you're going to ask for more money. So I need to be quick to punch guy as well, especially when you're not good enough. Because if we paid you out of high school, I could save money now if I just kick you to the curb because you're not good enough. We whiffed on the eval. At least I have more money to spend on my 20.5 or whatever it's going to be here moving forward.
As an aside and just for fun, you paying Nico? Because I'm not.
I laughed at that particular situation, but the thing is he could leave. It sounds like Tennessee is going to pay him because Heupel loves him. But, I mean, that's a decision that they'd have to make. Would we rather keep the $3 million and then try and hit a home run out of the spring window? Or do we just pay the $100,000 a year?
I do think they're in a rock and a hard place because of the big number they came with from the get-go. I would say this. I don't know, man. I don't know how much that kid's worth. I thought he was pretty average. I would be a little frustrated having to rise to that number, but if I don't have anybody behind him,
yep,
and I have the expectations of a 10-win season in the SEC, and I can win the East, yeah, it's a toughie.
Well, Lewis Riddick would pay him $6 million.
And listen, we both like Lewis, but yeah.
He is the Nico apologist in this country. There's no other.
It is strange. I don't know why. Because he's pretty objective about a lot of other guys.
Yeah. He'll call people like names, and you're like, oh, geez, Lewis, is this personal for you? What the hell's going on here? You know, in terms of like quitters and so forth.
Well, I'll give him a lot of credit because he was, as a former NFL player and NFL front office guy, and former scout, he was appalled when he watched us last year. And it took everything in him to try to be reasonable in his assessment of the grossness that he was witnessing. I mean, you could hear it in him. He was sad for Mike. He was sad for the program. He was sad for Florida State fans. He kind of said it. I remember he was like, well, you shouldn't have to see this. This is Florida State fans deserve better than this.
I forget. Was that the North Carolina game? I forget what game that was.
He was appalled.
Yeah.
Because of the effort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and look, this is that's the ugly part of it. But when this house thing goes through, you're going to be seeing this more and more often, and the numbers you're going to see are even higher and higher. I mean, I think the $3 million contract of today for a quarterback is in a cycle or two going to be $5 million because you just up the market across the board. And that's why you would prefer to have a coach who just would take action. And it sounds like Mike is getting closer to doing that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's really, we put a ribbon on the segment here. I think that's what I was getting at. I think Mike has been forced into a brand new era of where on the one hand, he was so good at tapping into the portal, having success, being out in front of it. And again, born out of necessity, but he gets credit for doing it. And then from there, everybody caught up and some guys were already ahead of Mike in terms of the ruthless way in which they manage their roster. Mike is now having, I think, that come to Jesus moment. Like, I got to run guys out. I got to get him out of here. I don't have time for this guy. If he's not going to play hard every day, I got to go. I mean, because I saw what my patience got me a year ago. Not only did I misassess, I also was way too tolerant of guys who failed to give the requisite effort to compete at the highest level. And I can't do it anymore. I just cannot do it. Good. I think that's the tone. That's the message we should be gleaning from each of these post-practice availabilities. I ought to hear some of that every time. Well, you know what? We're just not good enough at wide receiver. We're going to have to take a good look at that. Okay, there we go. That's what I want to hear. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
It's probably liberating, I would think, Tom, for Mike to do all the things that we're talking about now. There's a certain level of freedom that comes with, I don't have a choice. So this is how this is going to be. I would give anything to be a fly on the wall to hear the post-spring sit-down meetings with all of the players and coaches. This is going to be the juiciest one of the bunch because he's going to have input from new coordinators who laid a fresh set of eyes on the problem, right? And those guys, I mean, Tony and Gus don't have any allegiance to the kids that were brought in here by a different administration, if you will, a different coaching staff, right? Herb Hand isn't worried about anybody's feelings that he didn't bring in. So, I mean, they're going to sit down and be like, all right, here's what I figured out. That kid can't play for me. That kid can't play for me. This kid's got a chance. All right, let's keep him. We have to pay him. He's actually pretty good. This kid gives a lot of effort. I don't know if he's to the standard. This kid here, like, they're going to have all of these conversations. And I think right afterwards, Mike has to have those conversations with those kids. Listen, I've been in contact with LaGrange. They need, whatever it might be.
Yeah, that's where your conscience can take over. If the kid is trying hard enough, but they're not playing up to the standard, you try to find them a landing spot.
Of course.
And tamper for them. Tamper on their behalf and say, I know you haven't entered the portal, so nobody can contact you, but here's who is going to contact you, and you're going to have a great choice on your hands between LaGrange and Evansville. Fantastic opportunities for both pluses and minuses, but you could choose between those 2 locations. Yeah, both of these coordinators don't have the time. Just in
right.
Mike Norvell is being forced to realize he doesn't have the time because they're trying to bolster their own resumes. And this is, again, part of where the new age of college football is more honest. We need to throw some regulations in there. We need a collective bargain and get this thing to unionization. But in the interim, I like where this makes the game more honest. And so it's going to move things faster. And some of those interviews, some of those exit interviews from spring camp are going to resemble one of your favorite scenes in cinema, which is a Copland moment where Mike is going to say, my hands are tied.
Yeah.
My hands are tied. What do you want from me? You blew it. You blew it. You didn't work hard enough in camp. My hands are tied. And now you're gone.
I gave you a chance to be a cop and you blew it. That's one of my God. De Niro is so good in that scene. And by the way, so is Sylvester Stallone. And the funny part about that, I heard later on Stallone said that the De Niro part, the you blew it with the sandwich and all that, was totally ad-libbed by De Niro. And he said he was blown away, that it was hard not to get caught watching a master in the moment, right? He was just like, this is incredible. He has taken the words from the page and turned it into this whole other thing. Because remember, he's just eating that sandwich and he's all pissed off. Yep. It's so good. And you're right. I'm just picturing that. I'm picturing Mike like, what? My hands are tied. Yeah. He taps the desk.
I learned something yesterday very quickly about cinema. Sometimes the algorithm hits. Did you know that in The Godfather 2, and you
Right.
watch one of those videos? So the guy who played Pantangeli, who does the Michael, the Romans, they cut their wrists and they laid in the bath and they had a big party over it, and so he apparently nailed his courtroom testimony scene when he was testifying, and it was so brilliant. It was in the pre-shoots that the director wanted to go right away. He's like, oh, he's in the zone. Let's get this on film right now.
Yeah.
Well, they couldn't. The bylaws where they had to go to lunch, he got lit at lunch and he couldn't duplicate the performance again. He came back in. And so what made the actual film is far below the standard of what he was actually delivering before. So anyway, that's neither here nor there, but De Niro learned a thing or two from the Coppola project he was on.
I'm sure. Yes. And adapted along the way. It's not the first time that, where somebody was, especially when he was in his prime, people like where he was just where he was a chameleon. And people would watch, and all of a sudden, like, they had read the lines together, and the next thing you know, they're like, he's not doing the thing we were doing. He's got, like, no, man, he wants an honest reaction. He's giving you something completely different. He was never going to do what he was doing when you were reading the lines. He was always going to bring this other character into play. And that's kind of Stallone going, this is amazing.
That's why we don't do table reads on this program.
That's correct, buddy.
What you get is what you get.
Yeah. And what we ought to get is a big show in about a couple of weeks where we go, how about that? 9 dudes shown the door. 9 dudes, including some big names, shown the door.
It will be fascinating to see the timing of that. If that doesn't happen, I'm going to be disappointed. This isn't something where I'll come out the other side and say, well, no, man, I'll be disappointed if there isn't some degree of message sending being executed here. Probably a poor choice of words, but it begins next Wednesday. Yet we have practice through next Saturday. So that could be awkward in terms of, guys making announcements while practice is still going on. Or do you, continue through practice and then they only have 5 or 6 days to go because you have your exit meetings right after April 19th. That's one little headache that Mike will have to navigate next week is when do I tell the kid if he wants to move on?
Oh, I would be as upfront and brutal as possible and not waste time. I'd move on from the kid in the midst of these practices if I had to. If that person's not going to be able to contribute, you want to give them the opportunity to move on, and you want the opportunity to also fill their spot. I do think they're in a bit of a jam though, again, because we could want them to expedite the process and get some kids out of here that just aren't going to really contribute. And they've been here 3 years. I mean, if you're not contributing after 3 years, you're probably not contributing. We've missed. It's time to move on. The thing is, I don't know how much money they want to spend replacing those kids right now. And you do. I mean, obviously, you got to have requisite depth.
Yeah, you do, but there are certain positions where there's just way too much on campus. Receivers, one of them. Running backs, one of them. I'm sure you could find a spot offensive line 2 or 3. There's some guys in the secondary I'm sure that you could probably have a long discussion with. I'm not saying there's like 20 kids that need to not be here, but look, even if on the inflow market you're a little short, you're operating at 105 now. You don't have to max that out, and you could save a couple of pennies this go around if there isn't an obvious answer in the portal. Because you're shooting for a lower number anyway, and you could use that saved money in the winter window. Although I suppose I could be arguing against myself here because the rules are kicking in and you're trying to front load deals for people. So this could be a bloated 10-day window that's coming. Who knows? There's actually a couple of fascinating things to consider.
Well, and we don't know if everything is going to go the way that Michael Alford seems to think it's going to go. You still have this contention that this enforced salary cap type that it's never going to come to pass.
No, the third party. No, there needs to be another level of legislation or whatever, the antitrust or whatever needs to happen at the congressional level for it to really be capped. And honestly, it needs to be collectively bargained out for the cap to kick in. You can't have a salary cap if you don't have a workforce that's recognized. But what it's going to do, I think what this is going to do is it just serves to up the market. So if you are a above average left guard and you were making $80K before, you might make $140K now because there's this new pool of money that's going to be pulled from to share with you. So that's what I think it's going to do, is just up the baseline contract for each player. They're still going to go above and beyond at the third party level.
But here's what I think. I think that's true. But that said, the opportunities for those individuals to make much more than that, I think, are going to be minimized, because we're not operating under this nebulous false NIL nonsense. It's not like there is no value in your backup right guard. There is no marketing value to him whatsoever. So he's not going to get some weird number that you are falsifying by telling everybody that's not going to happen.
I would hope that's the case. But the problem is you already have certain states, like the state of Oregon, looking to outlaw this provision about, a third party restrictive device, not allowing for an extra contract. So I think we're just going to revert back to all you did was pay everybody more until you get the regulation of the unionization.
I wish they could speed this up. Hour 2 forthcoming. Stay with Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV on a Libations Friday.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, as we roll on this Libations Friday. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jeff. That is Tom. You're here. We appreciate it. I did want to touch on the baseball team. I think it's kind of an important weekend. Let's see how they play. We did hear from Link Jarrett this week about injuries. Tom, I was really holding out hope, kind of an under the radar thing here to note. I guess kind of we had forgotten about Connor Holtz, who's been out, but I didn't like Link's comments regarding Connor Holtz, in which he said there's not a target date right now. He's got a weird thing. It's not a traditional arm problem. It's quirky. I don't think we're close. Well, I'm going to go ahead and say that he's out for the year, right? I mean, that's what that sounds like to me.
Yeah. And he did confirm, too, that Evan Crest is out for the season as well.
That's where I was going to go next.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Evan is out for the year, and that really potentially was a devastating injury. I understand that people would say, well, he pitched, 17 innings for you? Yeah, but, man, that was a 2.70, and it was an effective, obviously, not just being a midweek guy and having the opportunity to, dominate during the midweek, but he was going to be a guy that helped you in the postseason. So that injury really hurts.
Well, and he was, at least through that part of the season, the Tuesday games were more difficult than the weekend opponents. And so I think that he would have been by now outright the Sunday guy, or there'd be heavy discussions about him being
on the verge of, yes.
Yeah, for sure. And that changes things, because if he was your Sunday guy and then, Mendez has a bounce back, well, then in a regional or super regional game 1, you go Jamie Arnold and Wes Mendez as the first guy out of the pen. I think ideally you'd want Mendez in this utopian world where Evan Crest didn't get hurt. You wouldn't have lefty back-to-back coming out in a game 1 setting. You would have Crest that spells Jamie Arnold when his time is done. But that lined up so beautifully, and now you're forced to go find something. And you're also forced this weekend into hoping that Jamie Arnold and Joey Vellini give you consecutive very good starts for the first time in a long time. And if you could get that this weekend, then I think everybody calms the hell down if you take 2 out of 3 and you see that your 2 horses are at least going to set you up for 5 or 6 innings at least apiece to win some baseball games.
Yeah, and by the way, they do get the good news that Chase Williams is back, and that's positive. One thing I hated to see, and this is an underrated thing, just because of the conversations I had with people before the year began, the fact that Bladen Plain, nobody knows who that is, just for the record. I mean, I shouldn't say nobody. Hardcore Florida State baseball fans know of Bladen Plain. He was a JUCO transfer who was set to be a backup first baseman or a right fielder. And, Tom, he's got big power. Everybody talked about what he was going to bring to the table in terms of that power. And, I don't know. We haven't seen him play. But before the season began, we were told that, okay, he's dealing with the issue with his back right now. We'll see if he gets it back, and then we'll go from there. Well, he kind of intimated he wasn't close to coming back either. And that's a real problem. I mean, that's a guy who was another power bat for you from the left side. And they were gushing about him in the offseason. So I hate that news.
Yeah, no, agreed. Because the way that Link describes him, as you're saying, it sounded like reinforcements are on the way to where we're going to have a real problem with depth, like a good problem with depth. At least with Chase Williams coming back, though, I think you turn the lineup over with incredible speed at 9. I suppose he could hit it earlier in the lineup, but I wouldn't mess with your top 4 or 5 anyway. So he could be a guy to help you turn it over. With DeLamielleure and Hankerson, you've got yourself, I think, what is developing into a potent lineup. This is something where there are ebbs and flows to a season. 2-3 weeks ago, my number one concern was the depth of the lineup after you get through the middle of the order. How much, lethality is there in the lineup? You have answers and versatility now at this point. And look, for what it's worth, if you get Jackson back to either catch for you or spell a DH, it's not like he's not getting on base. So that's a role for an 8-hitter. That's not terrible if you slot everything else where it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
This lineup is getting you to a place where you might be able to slug your way past some pitching failures, and I like that. But it would be very nice to see Jamie and Joey have good days back-to-back this week.
It puts more pressure on them. They have to be the studs that they can be and that they're capable of and that they've shown at various points this year they are. And I certainly that's been the case with Vellini. He's had one bad start. Happened to be his last one. That sucked. It was unfortunate because it set them up to get absolutely pasted. Because from once that happened, they had to go to the bullpen, and then they didn't have the depth of bullpen arms. So you end up on that final day when Mendez can't get out of the fourth, and you're screwed. At that point, it's going to be you really were holding on for dear life. I understand Link felt like they had Wake on the ropes. The Morningstar kid was in trouble several times in that game. But either way, it was always going to be that you'd have to win 15-14. You were always going to have to win on that day, 12-11 or something like that. You weren't going to hold Wake down because you didn't have depth of pitching. You still don't. That's, it's funny. People get really angry really quickly. I agree. They looked terrible in these last few games, and it didn't help that you turned around and lost to Florida, but you didn't play poorly against Florida. My assessment of that game was that you made one terrible pitch when you couldn't make that pitch. You can't throw 0-2 middle. It's unbelievable. But other than that, I thought you did a lot of things much better. I'll tell you what, you're spot on about how close they are to really hitting consistently, because here's the thing. In the wake of, ironically, that series in the loss to Florida, somebody might draw the conclusion that the bats are being exposed. They didn't score a lot in the win on Friday night. They didn't score but a total of 3 runs in the remaining 2 games or whatever that was. And so it was not a good showing. They only scored 4 runs on Tuesday. And yet I would argue that the adjustment to the approach on Tuesday after the fallout of the Wake series is exactly what Link wanted to see. Taking more pitches, being more discerning, shooting the ball the other way, doing some things that suggest that they were awakened to the idea that things have been a little too loose at the plate, a little too arrogant, perhaps is the word. And I think they learned their lesson there.
You could argue of the 3 games against Florida, that was their best offensive performance. They lost the game, and I get that they walk off in grand fashion, literally, when they play in Jacksonville. But you could argue that at bat, that was the best that they looked against those arms of Florida was this past week. I think it's starting to emerge at the right time. But you just have got to find your Carson Dorsey. You've got, by hook or crook, find me something close to that. One guy, is it going to be Lauk? Does Prescott bounce back? Does Mason Martinez keep it in the yard? Find me Joe Charles. I like him. Find me somebody. Monca was good the other night for a little stretch there. You got to find somebody that you can consistently lean on. Otherwise, I do think you said this last hour about Mike Norvell as it relates to the football program. There's probably some freedom in being able to, be cutthroat. I think there has to be some freedom if you're Link here. We never stop stealing bags if there's an opportunity. We never stop playing for a big inning because I can't trust my bullpen guys. So, if I need to manage aggressively here to try and tack on another 2 or 3 runs, even with a lead in the 7th or the 8th inning of 4 or 5, I must do that. And so there's no breaks here on the offensive mentality. You might even call that lineup aside and say, guys, don't stop. I don't want you letting up for a moment, because we could be staring at a 5-run lead that's now down to 2 with the bags loaded and 2 out the next half inning, because you know what this bullpen is. It's crap. I want 8 runs. I want 10 runs. I want 12 runs. You keep going. You do not stop.
Yeah, you could have the stated goal to your offense. We want to run rule everybody. I want to run rule everybody. Now sometimes that might be 20-9, but I want to run rule everybody. That's the mentality we have to have. And listen, let me deal with the fallout of having stolen second base up 9-0 in the 5th. I'll deal with it because I'm not doing this, man. We're winning these games. And I'll tell somebody, look, you go look at our numbers. You've seen our bullpen. If I got to beat you 17-0 in 6, it's what's going to happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are testing the boundaries of the unwritten rules because out of fear. There's a mentality that comes with that. We've seen so many excellent baseball teams in years past here at Florida State when they're up 8-2 in the 7th inning. Like, guys are trying to get work, but if they're the studs, they're going to put the ball in play early. You're kind of wanting to get out of there. It's like the job is accomplished. No at bats like that. There's no time for that. You have to be looking for blood at all moments.
There's that approach, but also I'm kind of curious now. We're getting way ahead of ourselves because I don't know how this season's going to end. When you say find your Carson Dorsey, the number one thing I think, besides the fact that Carson Dorsey was awesome and really not just did we discover him, but he discovered his inner toughness and became a different thing altogether. He was unbelievable when it mattered, right? He became this other guy once he got control of his stuff, but it was always stuff. So I would ask you, this is the thing, like when we saw Carson Dorsey, remember he came in as a closer. Remember he came in as a late inning guy.
Yeah.
Well, when we watched him, I mean, day one, the first time we ever saw him early in the season, I remember talking with you. I said, that guy, that's the dude with the best stuff on the team. That guy's stuff is filthy. I don't know if he knows where it's going, but it's filthy. Just in terms of spin rate and what we saw from him, we thought, oh man, harness that, buddy. You're playing in the league. Is there a reliever that you've said, oh, okay, well, you're a little wild. You don't know where it's going necessarily, and you walk too many people, and I'm frustrated with you, but stuff-wise, hey, get that harnessed, and we're good. Have you seen that guy that is the Carson Dorsey for this year? Because I don't know that I've seen that guy come out of the pen.
No, I mean, what I would say is for an inning or two, I think Prescott is that guy who is a 2-pitch guy, lives off the fastball, and you wouldn't want to see him through a second time through the order. But I mean, that heat plays. I really like Joe Charles as somebody who can help you as a multi-inning second guy out of the day. Like, so whenever Jamie's done, like, I feel like he has the right mentality and the right stuff to get you through multiple innings where there's not a whole lot of hard contact when he's going right. They all wanted Abraham to be the guy.
They did. They definitely did.
And he has some excellent secondary stuff when he's on. The secondary stuff is you have to live off of the fear of that and a pitch backwards probably. I don't know. The short answer is no, unless somebody emerges out of nowhere. I think the guy with the best stuff who has a 15 ERA is Rowan. Rowan's got awesome, nasty stuff if they could ever harness that. But there isn't an obvious candidate. Martinez has some excellent stuff as well, but now he's pitching to a 5.23. It was a nice few weeks for him. But my God, I mean, you're just looking up and down, and the ERA, this bullpen is like Joe Charles, 4.32, Abraham, 4.50, Kinnear, 5.19. Remember, he had his moment in the sun. Mason, 5.23, Manka, 5.25, Prescott, 5.30. What the hell, man? Yeah, it's very frustrating.
The problem with the numbers that you're reciting is that they're all traveling upward. They haven't stopped. This going up. That's not like, oh, well, it's been a rough year, but they got it together and he's down to a 4.87 or a 5.25. No, those are upwardly mobile numbers. They're not getting better. These are numbers that are traversing towards 6 and 7 for many of these guys.
The guy who has the good numbers, there's just the sample's too small, is Lauk. He's appeared in 7 games. He's up to 10 innings. So that doesn't scream long man out of the bullpen, but he's pitching to a 253. And I thought he looked fine on Tuesday. So maybe he's at least a setup man, but I mean, we all thought that they were deeper than this. I sounded the alarm early on the bullpen, but I didn't think it would be like this.
No, let's hope this weekend we discover something good. Hey, you probably know who he is. Let me take a right-hand turn that does have to do with baseball, and it is fascinating. You probably know who he is, but I don't know how much you know about him. Do you know Tom House, the name Tom House?
Yeah, wasn't he a basketball player for us for like 2 minutes?
Yeah, that's fair. No, this is Tom House, who played Major League Baseball in the 70s. He's a former left-handed pitcher in Major League Baseball who became an expert, a PhD, in fact, of all things to do with throwing, whether it be a football or a baseball. He has studied not just the quest for speed, but also the mechanics. And he revolutionized the way that people throw a baseball and the way that people throw a football. And he became fabulously wealthy. He has a PhD in sports psychology, and as well as some other. I think he's got a master's degree with something to do with neuroscience. He's a badass. He's the guy that teaches people how, mechanically as well as mentally, to get the most out of whatever they have physically. Okay. And he worked with Tom Brady. He worked with Drew Brees. He worked with the Mannings. He's worked with a number of football players, but he also started out his career eventually post Major League Baseball, where he was an average pitcher. He ended up getting a job with the Texas Rangers, and he coached Nolan Ryan from the time Nolan Ryan was 39, Tom.
Still a long way left in his career.
39 to 45. Nolan Ryan, in his Hall of Fame speech, said, I want to thank Tom House for his quirky yet interesting and, in my case, impactful methods for gaining speed, balance, strength in the delivery. And he went on to say in his Hall of Fame speech that he thought he was a better pitcher at the age of 39 because of Tom House than he ever was in his 20s or even early 30s. Well, I heard a long interview with him on a drive yesterday, 2 days ago. And Tom House is 77 years old now, and he talked about how his career accidentally turned into this thing where he helped football players as well as baseball players. And he helped Randy Johnson, and he helped all these other guys, right? And he talked about the biomechanics of it, and he was the first to use film in the late 70s, early 80s of guys from overhead and from the side. And he was the first to teach spin rate. He was the first to teach people about the angles, all this stuff. So he's the he's the guy that Eli Manning jokingly referred to when he was making fun of, was it Jameis or was it what's his face in Dallas with the hips in the pregame routine where they were flipping the hips.
Yeah.
And if you remember, Eli Manning did it. It was hilarious. And he goes, Peyton, this is some Tom House stuff. Because he referenced Tom House, and that Tom House talks about the separation of hips and upper body and all that. All right. So that's who Tom House is. He also happens to be the guy that caught Hank Aaron's final home run, his 715th home run. He was in the bullpen. He caught it. And he's the guy in the goofy glasses that runs out onto the field to give it to Hank. So it's a weird thing, right? All right. He said, and I just figure our listeners will find this interesting, and it's incredibly complicated, but he got into it. He said, listen, we're just kind of scratching the surface. He goes, guys can throw harder than they're throwing now. And in the interview, he was asked, Aroldis Chapman last year hit 105 miles per hour. And I was watching the game when he did it because he was with the Pirates. and he threw 105, a fastball in the inner corner. And he said, "Are we going to see people?" He goes, "Now, listen, Aroldis Chapman is like a monster of a man. You know, he's a huge dude. He's like, are we going to see people throw faster than 105?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, you will." He said, "We're getting there." He goes, "I know for a fact we've done it in the lab. Now, we can't sustain it, and it's going to be a rare person that can do it." He said, "But I think we're looking at 118 before this is all said and done." And I know. And he goes, "The human arm is capable. You can get to 118." He's like, "Now," he goes, "you wouldn't believe what I've seen like with guys in the lab that we've trained." He's like, you people can throw faster pitches than 105. I've seen it," is what he said. He goes, "Now, what happens is it goes to one of the meridians in your body instead of your brain. You have to bypass your brain in order to throw that hard." I was like, "Well, this is amazing. This gets into like ancient Chinese medicine where all the meridians in your body are." He's like, "Yeah." And then he starts talking about the buildup of tissue around the nerve centers, the myelin, and he goes all into this. And from there, he's like, "Yeah, hitters shouldn't be able to hit 105, but they can." And he's like, "You know how they hit 105? They don't wait for their brain." And he starts talking about all. It's incredible. So bottom line is he believes in our lifetime we'll see somebody throw 118 miles per hour.
That's a breathtaking number. It isn't as staggering if you watch the fastball documentary, which is one of the most excellent sports documentaries I've ever seen. I'm not as well versed as you are in the documentary world, but they at the end they try to figure out how fast Nolan Ryan actually threw the ball because the radar guns measured at a different point
Right.
than they do now. And I believe they surmised it was 107 or 108.
Yeah, I think he believes, because he worked with him for 7 years, he believes Nolan Ryan in his studies, he believes Nolan Ryan threw a ball 109 miles per hour in a game. He believes that.
Right, because again, the gun measures it in a different place than it used to. In fact, it just changed a few years ago to where I think it ticked everything up by a significant percentage to where the new 97 is actually what 95 was maybe 10 years ago when you were looking at the gun. But it measured, I think, 10 feet out from home plate back in the day, early 90s, late 80s. And if you're hitting 110 feet out from the plate, that means when it leaves your arm, it's going way, way faster than that.
Yeah.
So in that sense, like 110, I wouldn't have batted an eyelash. 118 is friggin' crazy, though. This does speak to the power of the human mind. Once Roger Bannister breaks a threshold, then magically the brain realizes that you can run faster. You can run under a 4-minute mile, and others are able to do that out of nowhere. There is something to that. The brain holding you back from achieving something else. But I wonder if we get to that. I mean, there's already Tommy John left and right, and people are living at 97, 98. Are we going to see an arm sever from the body with the ball still attached to it?
Well, that would be awesome. Can you imagine the day you're watching a game and a guy's arm flies off?
That's like something out of the Naked Gun. Oh, my God. There's a ball in the arm just spinning in the air. Like, that would be my one thing is, sure, the human body could do it, but we're tearing ligaments and tendons right now just to throw 98, not 20 miles an hour faster than that.
He told a funny story about how he got involved with football players. And he said that basically, look, I got involved with Drew Brees after he hurt his shoulder, and I had to reteach him how to throw a football and reteach him like the angles he needed to be at. He's like, here's the thing about Drew Brees. He's the most accurate passer in NFL history. He goes, when we got done with him, he's never had a big arm. He said he had a wide stance and he was super accurate. And when we retaught him how to throw, he said he kept his accuracy, but I needed to close his stance so that he could get the ball down the field more consistently. He's like, Tom Brady was the opposite. He said Tom Brady had a big, wide or too narrow a stance, and he could throw it as far as you can imagine anybody throwing a football. And he actually said that. He goes, hey, the thing about Tom Brady is people don't realize he had a cannon. He's like, he could throw the ball a mile accurately with something on it. He's like, but he was less accurate in the intermittent and close passes. He's like, so we had to widen his stance. We told him, no, you got to widen your feet, man. You're throwing everything 100 miles per hour, and you're losing some accuracy. And we saw that in Tampa, Tom. Like, he threw it accurately. He might kill you, but he threw it accurately. I mean, imagine again being one of those receivers catching a 5-yard out from him. It was coming.
I mean, if he did that in the street, he would be arrested and charged with a felony. I mean, if you just threw something at somebody the way that he threw an out to Leonard Fournette,
oh, poor Leonard,
they would go to the hospital and you'd go to jail. It was ridiculous.
You remember, and we'll close the segment, the game New England had against Tampa Bay, was it a Sunday night or a Monday night game when Brady came to town and threw all those accurate-ass passes towards the sideline because we were playing off the receivers?
Yeah, it was. I think it was a Thursday night game.
Whatever it was, I just remember being more impressed with him that night than I had ever been. I was like, man, the ball is out of his hands in a millisecond. It is on the money with room to spare. Like, it leads them to run upfield. It was incredible.
Yeah, that was the game where O.J. Howard blew it at the buzzer. Jameis threw an excellent ball. We would have walked off with a touchdown, and O.J. Howard didn't know where the hell to go.
Yeah.
That night, Brady, to me, God, I remember that game vividly.
Yes.
Because the Bucs did the red out, and like that was our only good uniform with Jameis was the red out jersey. Brady's ability to do the Tom House Jameis drill, to swivel the hips and move and whip his entire body from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. It was almost like he was on a platform. He was moving so fast, and he was doing that in his late 30s. That was friggin' nuts. Little did we know he'd win a Super Bowl for us in that building.
Yeah, I just remember that night thinking, oh, man, he's better than people realize. He's better than I thought he was. Like, just seeing that every snap going, how in the – every ball, wham, 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 wham. And it was now. Yeah, you better have – I can't imagine being one of those receivers like, oh, you better get your head around, man. It's coming. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
Man, I got to believe as we get closer and closer, and another reminder, I think, Tom, we're going to go ahead and do the thing where we go over to CP for the draft, right? And maybe we'll have James Williams come out to the draft and we'll all hang out and get his picks.
Who's footing the bill for that? Nothing like that is free these days. But yeah, I hope we have him come on again to talk about his board because he seems to be very into it. And I love guys that are into the draft. I'm into draft night more than I am looking at all individual situations for the other franchises. I don't care about the other franchises, but the draft, not before the draft. On the night though, oh man, that's so much fun because it's like a rainbow of jerseys. There's just at a draft watch event, you always see, well, Cleveland's up. I've never seen a Cleveland fan on a Sunday here in Tallahassee, but sure as hell for the draft, there'll be 3 Cleveland fans at a corner pocket or a Bumpus. And you're like, all right, how do you guys feel about your situation? And you get into these conversations. It's just a great event. It's made for bars. That specific event is made for going to a bar.
It's awesome. And it's when all fans have something in common, right? Everybody's excited about their team's draft. I actually do like going through what I think other teams should do because it's part of the play. It's part of the larger soap opera, big picture, situation. Like I like to see what our teams in our division going to do, for example. And then I extrapolate that out to the entire NFC. Like, what are the Eagles doing? We got to catch the Eagles at some point. We got to catch the Washington Commanders right now are about to be a problem. We're going to have to see what they're doing. You start watching in your own division right now. Atlanta's got a real chance here to turn this all around. They haven't mattered in forever. But they've got a chance to really turn this around because they have Penix. And I think Penix is going to be a real player. And they've got some other nice pieces to go along with Penix. And so we'll see what they do next. I am very curious about all of it. I also think it's fun because there are those dilemmas that we put ourselves in, such as what would I do? What would I do? I need a wide receiver. I need a defensive back. Which do I need more? Well, that depends on, are you in the AFC West? Are you in, you start asking yourself which quarterback do I see twice a year? That's the stuff you're asking yourself.
Okay, that's fair. And yeah, I'll revise what I mean, which is I do take a look at the franchises and what they need. For example, Washington, this needs to be a defensive draft. That's easy, right?
Right.
Carolina might actually have a quarterback now, so they don't need to worry about that. Whereas maybe with 6 games to go in the season or 8 games to go in the season, you might have been looking like, are they going to trade up for a quarterback? But where I don't follow is, well, who do they host as for official visits? Who are their top 3 cornerbacks that they have on their board? Things like that. Hell no. But yeah, certain franchises and situations, you're looking at the power struggle in the NFC. Philadelphia just shed a ton of talent on defense, so they got to replenish right away. Washington, we know what they're going to do. It's the same draft that we're going to have in a sense, which is you got to go defense heavy. But yeah, for those that are in the market, like around here, you have a rookie quarterback on a rookie quarterback wage scale with Penix. This is Atlanta's time to be extremely aggressive for playmakers and short returns, early returns, and draft picks, and then also in free agency as well, because this is when you got to make your cap numbers work as best you possibly can. That first contract with a rookie is very important to make hay with.
I'm going to tell you right now that I am crossing my fingers, and I rarely do this, but I am so hoping Tampa Bay drafts the Amenwari kid from South Carolina, the safety, who is a freak of nature. And you're talking about a 4.38 40, a 43-inch vertical, and the productivity in the SEC. He was, he had 5 picks last year? I mean, he is a star. And there is a good chance he's on the board when we draft. And I would say to anybody, and it's true, if in the backfield you have Winfield and him, buddy, we may finally see a day in which Tampa Bay makes plays in the secondary consistently. And you and I both agree they need a rush in. They need a linebacker.
Yep.
They need to go defense. I got it. But I don't really care the order. So I'm going to go with the best player at the position of need, and I think it's him. That's the route I'd go if Tampa Bay has that chance.
I haven't looked at the prospect board all that deeply to see who would be available at our pick, but I like the sound of that. Winfield needs to have a bounce-back year. I wonder if the injury he suffered in week 1 left him out of whack for the entirety of the season, but it was not up to snuff. That was not a year that lived up to the contract he had just signed. So they do need a bounce back there. But also, it's when you've got a bad defensive back room, and we did last year, or thin and injured, either way, whatever you want to call it, everybody ends up looking bad. And when you have a bad pass rush, everybody in the defensive backfield looks bad. So you could pull at it a bunch of different ways. The defense wasn't good enough, and they need to go heavily to work on that one. And this is a good defensive draft, apparently. This is what you're telling me, that this year's draft is not thought of as deep the offensive skill position way, but if you're looking for defenders, this is your year.
This is your year. You've got a lot of opportunities all over on defense. And the thing is, the reason I bring up the Mwari kid is that he ran that 4.38 at the combine, Tom. He's 6'3", 227, sir. This is a monster. This is a freak at safety. A freak. He makes no sense.
Well, that would pair nicely with Winfield, who is not 6'3" and 235 pounds. So yeah, you do want an enforcer type there. But man, I think of all the positions, linebacker, we need more of. We probably need 2 or 3 to draft and hope that you hit on 2.
Well, you'd have an opportunity at linebacker where we're drafting to get Mikael Williams from Georgia. I think he'd be there if you wanted to go that route at linebacker. They may go there, from what I can tell. There are a few linebackers you may be able to get. Jahad Campbell, the linebacker out of Alabama. Some say he's going to go before he gets to where we're drafting, but there's an outside chance he's there too. You got a decision to make if he is there at the time that you draft. But I don't think you can overlook if you have what I think is arguably the biggest freak in the draft available to you. Long, strong, 4.38, nasty, productive in college. So you're not like projecting something he hasn't already done. He was really good at South Carolina. He was a huge difference maker. I'm going with that pick.
Yeah. WWTRD. What would the Ravens do? they would take this kid. And they always, whether or not it bears out, they always, it seems, after night one of the draft and night two of the draft, even you go, well, God dog it, if the Ravens didn't have the perfect draft, it feels like they do every year, this is the player that they would take. And they would take a safety that big and that freakish.
Well, they just did. The kid from Notre Dame who's been incredible.
Right.
Hamilton.
Hamilton.
The kid who was responsible for one of the greatest interceptions in Doak Campbell Stadium history.
Well, another guy that was, responsible for one of those that was called back. I've been looking, and the trend is holding that NFL insiders don't know who the third cornerback taken is going to be. The top two are consensus, and then after that, it could be any one of 4 or 5 dudes, and AZ's on that list. So he could very well be drafted opening night.
Yeah, the Hairston kid from Kentucky is ahead of him, is from what I can tell. You're right. It's fascinating. I've rooted for this to happen for him. I've really, really wanted AZ to, not just because he's a Nole, but he's a good kid. I know he's going to go top 40, top 45. I mean, he's going to go in that area if you're trying to project that out. If you're in, by the way, if you guys are in a pool and you do this sort of thing, project AZ to get drafted in the top 40. He could go late first, early second. That's what we're seeing pretty much now is the consistent projection for him. And it makes me mad because we really didn't get from him what we could have got from him. And can you imagine what Tony would have done with him this year? Damn it, man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would have been nice. I don't want to think about that for too long because it starts to piss me off.
It starts to piss me off too, man. Yeah, I think on that note, it's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So the odds yesterday were, let's see, let me double check it. How far down are you, Rosie? Wow. Okay, Justin Rose is behind J.J. Spawn, behind Cam Smith, behind Patrick Reed, behind Minwoo Lee, behind Sergio Garcia, behind Koepka, McIntyre, behind Finau, Pendrith, Berger, just slightly ahead in terms of course form, just slightly ahead of Denny McCarthy. So why do I bring that up? Well, obviously, it's one day of golf. And in one day of golf, you're not shocked when you look up and see Byung-Young Ahn lead the Masters or Thomas Dietrich or somebody like that, where you go, okay, well, I see where, Steven Yeager is 7 under at the start the Masters. All right, whatever. It doesn't mean anything necessarily unless you bet one of these guys to be the leader after day one. In which case, if you bet Justin Rose to be the leader after day one, good on you. You just won a lot of money. But I bring all of this up to say to you, Tom Lang, now that Justin Rose sits atop the leaderboard at the Masters at 7 under par, could have been 8 if he didn't make a mess of the last hole. Where does he finish? Does Justin Rose finish in the top 10 of the Masters this year?
Yeah, I think he finishes top 5. The one concern I have is he has an awful right miss off the tee that he was fighting towards the end of the round yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be something that needs to be rectified right away. But he strikes me as the guy who will be in the final pairings, 1 or 2 tomorrow and Sunday. It's not like he doesn't play well here. He lost in the playoff in 2017 to Sergio. He finished second to, was it Spieth? When Spieth won his first one, it might have been a little earlier in time. This is the 5th time in 20 starts he's held the lead after Thursday. So 1 out of 4 times in his Masters career, he holds the lead after 18 holes are played. He likes this course, and he played well last year at the Open Championship. So he's on form enough, at least I think, not from the odds-making standpoint. I just mean from the experience standpoint. It's not like this is a Freddie Couples resurgence from 15 years ago where you're like, oh my God, he hadn't done a thing. Rosie's been in the conversation recently enough that I think that it can hold. It can hold for him to finish top 5.
I think you're right. And by the way, just so you know, Data Golf believes that he will. It's a 41.9% chance that he finishes in the top 5 after yesterday's round. It is a 61% chance that he finishes in the top 10 after that first round. So for some of you who like to have some wagers and some juice moving forward, if you want some great odds, well, look, I would start looking at Corey Connors for a top 10, 50% chance. He plays well at Augusta National. If you want a top 5, Corey Connors is at 28%. By the way, you probably get good money right now on Rory McIlroy, probably plus money. Rory is still, based on the statistics from the round yesterday, you can vet this out a lot of different ways. It's one of the reasons I like Data Golf. You can just look at the overall odds of where a guy finishes based on previous starts, including the 18 holes he played yesterday, or you can look at the shot link and you can see, what he projects to have shot with similar accuracy and yardages. Corey, listen to me. I'm thinking of Corey Connors. Rory McIlroy screwed up his round on 2 holes. Other than that, he was really good on 16 of the 18 holes. So he projects to finish top 10.
He does. Well, right now this year, his scrambling from the bunker is over 70%. That's nuts. We see this because golf is actually kind of like a highlight show, unless you're watching a featured group. If you're watching a broadcast on a Sunday, you don't see many lowlights unless it's heat of the moment, you're one of the leaders, and they tank. Otherwise, it's just a collection of highlights. So we get this false sense of how good they are out of the bunkers in terms of being able to get the ball up and down because you see all the great shots. It's usually like the elite are around 55, 60% in terms of sand saves. Rory's over 70 this year. I am certain, and the problem is, obviously we taped this in the morning so that, Rosie could have gone out and shot 65 again, or he could have shot 75 because he teed off just before 9 a.m. this morning. With Rory, I'm more convinced, because I've been very dismissive of him the last 10 years. I'm convinced he's going to win at least another major because of the refined approach shot that he has crafted with the 9 irons and the wedges. That sawed-off half wedge thing is going to work for him, and it's going to work big time for him. Yesterday, it was chipping, of all things, that came out of nowhere and got him. They were 2 chips, one from the back of 15, and then one from the downslope on 17. Had it not been for those 2 poor chips, he shoots 68, 67, somewhere in there. That's not usually the thing that rises up and gets Rory. Usually it's wedge play or plays with short irons in his hand with a chance to go attack pins. Man, he has fixed that problem, I think. And if that's the truth, his driver's still been consistent as hell. I don't know that he's going to contend in this one. He would have to do something that it hasn't been since Craig Stadler that somebody's made multiple double bogeys and won the Masters. That I just watched like a couple weeks ago. That happened 40-plus years ago. So I don't think he's going to win this week. But I think Rory's going to win another major or two now because he's fixed a major hole in his game.
It sucks for him because, honestly, I think he would have had a great chance to win this thing had he just not had those terrible results. Even if those are just bogeys. If he's just 2 under instead of even, I think he's in it to win it because he's playing so well. But, man, it is going to be hard to overcome that. It's only happened twice in the history of the Masters that somebody's had 2 double bogeys in a round and still won. You mentioned the last one, which was Craig Stadler, the Walrus. But, it doesn't happen very, very often at all. The way that it would have to happen now, Tom, and he may have it in him. I don't know what the conditions are today, but if he goes out this morning and shoots a 65, he could maybe be in it on the weekend and give yourself a chance. He's playing better than just about anybody in the world right now.
Yeah, yes, he is. The hard part is that you always typically have a bad day of the 4, and you have to mitigate the damage. Well, he didn't score on a good day, so he's going to have 4 good days this weekend in order to run it down. And also, you just spotted Scotty Scheffler and Ludwig and Bryson 3-4 shots, and he spotted Rosie 7. Now, we might, water that down and say that's basically like a 4-shot lead, but that's a lot. These things come down to 1 or 2, and it's not like there's a bad draw coming. They had a little bit of rain overnight into this morning. So the course should be a little bit softer this morning. But beyond that, it's kind of a level playing field. So you're going to have to be 5 shots better than Scotty Scheffler over the next 3 days. Could you do it? Sure. That's a heavy-ass lift, though.
I think most of us are betting on Scotty Scheffler to win the Masters at this point.
Yeah, I'm also I was in awe of Ludwig's round yesterday because I don't think that was a good round. But he steered it home, and it was smooth in the back nine, and he scored in the back nine. But that wasn't one of those lights out performances. So that's the scary thing, is when you look like you play above average, not great, and you come in at 3 or 4 under par, like, man, that's scary. Same thing for Bryson. I don't think Bryson played well yesterday, and he came in at 3 under. If Rory didn't screw it up with the chips, man, this was setting up to be an all-time, weekend here with the names you got on the board.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. But I will always say this for people who don't know, and I can attest to this very briefly in my life. If you don't know whether or not you'd like Justin Rose to win the Masters, you should. You should root for Justin Rose to win the Masters. He is a sweetheart of a man. I've met him. I met him at Augusta National. That feels like a humble brag. It is not. It was a cool moment, and he was unbelievably kind. He didn't know me from Adam. I got invited because of Trey Jones to a party with a lot of players that were there. It's one of the highlights of my career. I've said many times I'll never be able to replicate something like that. But the first guy that I met going into that house was Justin Rose, who was sitting underneath a big screen television of him. It was his press conference that was on above him from earlier in the day. And he didn't know it. He didn't know it was on above him. And he was greeting people because this was a Nike party and there were agents and all that sort of thing. And Trey, they knew Trey. They didn't know me from Adam. But we walked in, and I'm trying to keep my cool. I'm like, oh my God, there's so-and-so, there's so-and-so, there's so-and-so. That's incredible. But the first person I saw was Justin Rose. And I looked above him, and I was like, hey, you're below you. And he starts laughing. He's like, what? And I go, yeah, you're on. And he looks up, and he sees himself, and he's like, oh, great. And anyhow, he's nonplussed. And I go, nice to meet you, Jeff Cameron. He's like, what do you do, Jeff? He just started to ask me questions, like genuinely started to ask me questions. It was the coolest thing. Sweetheart of a guy, has a great reputation in the sport. If he wins it, it'd be a good thing for golf. Final hour forthcoming. Stay with Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
Broadcasting live from Florida's capital city, this is the Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness on Real Talk 93.3. Now, stop what you're doing and listen closely. It's time for the Jeff Cameron Show in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Final hour of the Jeff Cameron Show on a Libations Friday. Loosey Goosey. Hasn't been that loosey goosey. I've been slightly under the weather, and it's also disjointed this week. We're back fresh on Monday, normal set of shows as we normally are. But appreciate you along for the ride. Appreciate you enduring my nasally, gravelly voice for now, and hopefully we'll get this all figured out and be good to go. I was hoping it was just pollen, but it's not just pollen. It's something more dastardly, damn it. And it's very aggravating.
That's an annual debate. You wake up a couple of days over the course of pollen season and you feel feverish and your throat's on fire and you're wondering, if I just clear my throat when I go brush my teeth, is this going to go away? And many days it does. Many days that's the end of it. You just hawk up something disgusting and you make sure that you change your air filters and you're fine. But then other days, no, it's actually some sort of springtime flu bug. That's all the rage up north. I realized that last year. The spring flu is a thing, and oddly enough, in the Mets booth, both Ron Darling and Keith Hernandez have had it. So you're going through the first couple of weeks of games for my MLB team, and you're hearing, "Well, that's the most important thing on this pitch." And you're like, "Oh my God, send them home! Send them home!"
Hey, we didn't mention it at the end of last hour, and I guess we should. How great was that to see Freddie Couples throw one in?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, you thought he already had the moment because he holed out from greenside earlier in the round. Yeah. And then, with the yellow golf ball, he's just decided to go all in on the fun. That was on number 14, I think. Was it right?
Yeah, it was. And it's a hybrid. It's a hybrid club because he doesn't have the distance that he used to have with his irons anymore. So he's gone straight old man. He is like, look, I don't care. I don't care. I'm playing with a 4 hybrid, a 5 hybrid. I might throw a 6 hybrid in there next year. I don't care. And I've got a yellow golf ball and my back is shaky. I am an old golfer, but I still have this sweet ass swing and I hit the center of the club face, whether I'm hitting a freaking goofy made for television hybrid or an Adams tight lie, or if I'm hitting a regular club, it doesn't matter. It's still gorgeous. And it is.
Well,
And it is.
that's the magic of Augusta. That is the magic of the Open Championship, is that you can still have an old timer top flight tour pro. Like he beat Rory by 1 yesterday. Was it sustainable? No, but it happens Langer shot 1 under, right? So this stuff happens all the time at Augusta. One of my favorite stats ever, and if you're ever in a Tiger versus Jack argument and you have to take Jack's side, the year after Tiger changes the world and wins by 12 or 10, whatever it was, in 1997. So they Tiger-proof things. They changed the course. Jack Nicklaus beat Tiger at the Masters that next year.
That's crazy.
He beat him the next year when O'Meara won. Jack beat Tiger over the course of 4 days. Jack was nearly 60 years old. That's the magic of this place, is those old-timers can, for a magical few days, because they've memorized the course, 30 years of knowledge of playing it, they can shoot a 71 like Freddie Couples. And I wouldn't be stunned if he made the cut. And these guys, they have that goal too. They ain't trying to win the thing. They just want to make the cut at their favorite place in the world. And this is one of the best weeks of weather I've ever seen for Augusta too. Everybody is stopping and saying, can you believe how beautiful it is out right now?
I got to follow Bernard Longer in the year I went, and he still played exceptional golf. He was, when I was watching him, he was even or 1 under at the time that I was watching him as we were getting to Amen Corner. And one of the things I liked about it was that he was so, I think, in the moment and appreciative of being able to still play at a high level at that place because he had such reverence for it. Obviously, he's won it. So he's a guy that looked around. He was really engaging with the patrons because of what you're saying. He knew he wasn't going to win at Augusta National. He was just fighting to try to make the cut. And he was also obviously a lot shorter off the tee than many of the guys that he was competing against, and he knew it. And he would joke about it. Like he would make jokes like when somebody would hit a 5-iron off the tee, he would be like, well, I'm going to have to go with the 3-wood here. I don't have that. I don't have that gear anymore. But he would do it, and he would center of the club face that thing, and it'd be right down the heart.
Well, yeah, I misread his. He shot 74 yesterday, but he still has a chance to make the cut because the number as of early Friday morning is 2. I think that thing might slide back to 3. But he would lay up. He does lay up on number 4 routinely.
Yes.
Long par 3. I'm assuming he has to lay up on 11 because that hole's like 550 and it's a par 4. I know it's down the hill, but he's probably just like gassing himself just to get the thing to arrive at the base of the green. And then you got to get up and down. It's its own fun challenge. Like if you ever decide to go out on a random night at Capital City or someplace here in town and go play the tips or go play the red tees, it changes everything. Like I encourage that. If you're a golfer out there, try the tips for one. Everybody wants to go tougher. But then try the reds because you feel very claustrophobic about the way things are set up. It teaches you how to hit different things. And essentially, Bernhard is all of us trying to go out to Seminole Legacy. We're better golfers than our own versions of ourselves. Go to Legacy and playing the tips and just trying to keep it together and have this thing not fall off. The degree of difficulty of what he's doing is awesome. And I hope, because it is his final Masters, I hope he makes the cut.
I was reading a lengthy piece on Augusta National involving – I guess just the booming business and the expansive luxury market for Augusta, like more than it's ever been. It was always hoity-toity, right, and all those things. But I was reading an article in which it said, "Would you spend $17,000 for a week of hospitality at the Masters?" 2,500 people did. Augusta National Golf Club, fewer trees this year. But off the course, the home of the Masters tournament has gotten even bigger in several major luxury areas. Map and Flag, what the club describes as the official Masters hospitality experience, has debuted a second floor at the 26,000 square foot venue opened across from Washington Road last year. High-end food and beverage, tournament access, its own merchandise shop, Tom. 2,500 weekly badges were sold at $17,000 a piece. That's more than $42 million in ticket revenue. They think they could have sold 4,000. Fred Ridley, of course, adds, well, the popularity of this venue inspires us to consider what else may be possible in the future. How about that? You like that, PR? You like the way that you say, well, we can get greedier than we already are, as evidenced by how quickly we sold out these $2,500, $17,000 badges. How hilarious is that? But they are doing that. And the addition of the Bank of America as a fourth champion partner of the Masters meant makeovers for the hospitality buildings. With the other three top tier, it's, let's see, AT&T, IBM, and Mercedes. It's crazy. They have these global media rights partners. They have more than they've ever had before. They had more than 50 different production trucks there running an estimated 270 miles of fiber cables that operate behind Augusta National's content for CBS, ESPN, Golf Channel, Sky Sports, and then all of these luxury tents where it becomes a glorified watch party where you come in and out of the tent from eating lobster and sipping champagne and then walking around the venue for a while and actually seeing the golf on the course itself and then coming back. If you and I could afford the $17,000 for one of these, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it, and I wouldn't do it if I was a billionaire. Because who in their right mind goes to Augusta National to spend time in a hospitality tent? It's the course, you dumbasses. You need to be on the course.
Yeah, well, it's somebody who doesn't care about golf. It's somebody who's there to see and be seen. Yeah, and to acquire an asset rather than enjoy the experience. To me, I was at Whistling, and that was its own amazing experience. It was just post-COVID, so you didn't have the full Euro invasion and the crowd going back and forth. But you got to get out in the thick of it. The problem, I would say, is I don't know if I would go back to the Ryder Cup for a Sunday ever again. There's too much going on. You have the earpiece, so you can hear what's happening around the course, and it's cool to hear the roars that happen behind you. I like the TV. I like watching all the things happen. I don't like missing a moment. It's great that I'm here at a drivable par 4, and that's fun to watch these groups come through. But you're trading off a whole lot. Like, I really think the way to go to a golf event is to either go to a practice round or go to a Thursday, Friday when the field is massive and people are playing everywhere. But then if you really care about the result, I'd rather be in front of a television and watch that final round because every moment matters so greatly. I did price some things out because I'm getting to that point in my life where I'm trying to buy experiences. At the Open Championship, it's a hell of a lot more reasonable. You can get what's called a club makers package for about $1,000. It's still $1,000 to get in, and they do give you elevated tent, open bar, and packaged food. But even then, I'm saying, how much time would I spend, and are you really going to have that much of an open bar? You don't want to get too loose. You want to go walk the course and follow the golfers. I don't know. That's one sport where it's very cool that you can walk up close and personal to players, and you get so very close to them, and you get really cool access. But if you go to a golf event, you're trading off a whole lot in the way of experiencing the entirety of television coverage.
You know, I don't like to be at any of the PGA Tours tournaments, any of the majors or otherwise, on a Sunday. I don't want to be there. It's a nightmare for the reasons that you just laid bare, and actually wanting to see what's happening all over the course is an impossibility while you're on it. So there's all of that. The practice rounds are the best thing to ever go to, first of all. And if you're not going to go to a practice round and you want to see actual competition, Thursday, Friday is the way to go. You want to be out there during a weekday. The players typically too are so giving at that time. It's really amazing. It's impressive.
Yeah, and I think at that point you pick a horse and you just follow him. You said you followed Sergio once, and I think Adam Scott. Like I would pick if I went to Valspar this year. You know, and I was invited to go down there. It's spring practice, so you can't make that. It was a great invite. I would go follow Lowry. I'd love to watch Shane Lowry play around for 18 holes. You know, I'd love if Brooks comes back to the PGA Tour, which it sounds like he most certainly will be here in the near term. Follow him for 18 holes because you're going to see some awful shots, but you're going to see the greatness of the pros to how they bail themselves out of those moments. So you're learning something. It's an educational experience, and you don't really care if Victor Hovland shoots 63 on Thursday at the Valspar. Who gives a damn? That's not
Right.
it's not for the tournament. He'll be in position to win it, but you can watch on Sunday. You know, it's tough. Like our boy Matt Millar has been to how many Masters now? Like a ton.
I think
was there.
4, right?
Yeah, well, you don't have your phone. Like that's awesome, but also at the same time, you're at the mercy of those old classy white scoreboards keeping you updated on what people are doing around the course. You're basically back in 1975 getting information from a scoreboard rather than from an app that you have on your phone.
Yeah, it's an experience. I would encourage everybody if they ever get the opportunity to do it, but just go walk the course, man. Just spend all of your time out on the course. A moment that I will cherish forever is Trey and I walking at sundown towards the end of the round with a $1 beer in our hands or a $2 beer, whatever it was, in our hands. And he and I watched the end of the rounds that the last remaining people that were on the course. And we walked down together and it started to filter out. It's the sun's gone down. It's just it's beautiful. And you really have a chance to take it all in. You just kind of, how in the world does a landscape like this exist? And how hard must people work during this stretch of just really mere weeks? Because what people don't know is it doesn't look that way year round. It looks great. It's often beautiful, but it's never as pristine as it is the week before and the week after the Masters.
Well, and there was a moment yesterday is made me smile. It's Bryson doing his post-round interview, and he stops in the middle of an answer because there was a weird sky that the cameras caught it a little bit yesterday. It was like a glowing orange sky because of the cloud cover and the sun fighting through the clouds. So it just had this hue that oftentimes you see that in growing up in Clearwater or Tampa. That means that a nasty ass storm is coming. Like the sky turns orange or it turns green. But this was just like a peaceful glow. And he's like, I'm sorry, I'm answering your question, but guy, it's glowing out here, guys. Like it's glowing. And that's what that place, I can only imagine in my head what that place does. But you're right. There's something, I don't know. Some people like the first thing in the morning feel. I think that twilight feel when the day is settling down over a golf course that's the most special time.
Yeah, they're both pretty awesome. And that place is
both. I would take either. But yeah.
I arrived first thing in the morning when I got there, and I left as one of the last patrons to leave the grounds. I got to see both, and I'll always remember it. That's what I mean, though. Like these people sitting around in a hospitality tent. What are you doing? This isn't the Valspar where you could give two whatevers to see the event. This is Augusta National, you dumbasses.
Right. Yeah, you're inside a giant white tent that you hear the generators.
Yeah.
Like, and you're walking up to the bar. You're watching Rich Lerner tell you things that you could see with your own eyes.
You could have been out there watching him hit that shot on Amen Corner. You didn't have to be in a tent talking to some dudes you can't stand and have to pretend to like just so that you could get a slice of key lime pie? Or what is, I don't understand any of it.
Lobster thermidor. I need my lobster thermidor today, or else I just cannot survive. I will ask you, since this is kind of an Augusta 101, it seems to me from watching on television that if you can get this seat, and Maddie's had the seat by the Hogan Bridge on 15 before.
Yeah.
That seems to be where it's at, somewhere in that collection of grandstands, because you can see 16 green. So you get the par 5 down the hill and you get 16. I think that might be the best place to go. I don't know if you had badges to go today and you've already been to the property, so you've walked it and you just want to station yourself. What is the best place to go?
Yeah, that's the place. But I will tell you this. That's not how I watch golf tournaments. I get why you would down the stretch on a Sunday. On a Sunday you would do that. if it's any other day, I pick pairings and walk with them. I mean, I think that's what you do. You find the group that you like most, and you say, "All right, I want to watch Aberg and Abor and so go today." I don't know who he's with today, but
He's with Rory again.
yeah.
That was
Well, there. That's who I would go. I mean, today, that's what I would do.
yeah.
I mean, can you imagine watching those two swing the club? I mean, that up close and personal at that place. Those two gentlemen in particular. Yeah, man, I'm doing that. I may take a volatile player who does a lot of weird, crazy stuff and also has freakish skills in an area. So, like a guy like Minwoo Lee. I mean, nobody swings the club off of the driver the way he does. It's so fun to watch him drive the golf ball. I'd be like, I'm going to go watch him hit a few holes here, especially in particular holes where I know he gets to unleash the beast. Like those kinds of things. The tricky part about Augusta National is that it is physically demanding. It is a physically demanding course. Like for the players, it's got to be exhausting.
Yeah.
But for the patrons, many of whom are old as hell, good luck, man, trying to walk. I mean, if you're young, if you're in good shape, you're 65, which I wouldn't call young, but you've kept it together and you're in good shape, go walk it, man. It's the best. It's just so expansive. The hills are significant, Tom. Your calves will burn. You will get to a place where you're like, sweet Jesus. But, I mean, if you played it, you'd think to yourself, man, you got to be in shape. I wonder how some of these fat asses who've played well there were able to do it.
Yeah, I'm looking outside right now because I kind of have a glimpse into the area of town where Capital City is from where I live, just to take a look at the size of the hills relative to where I am. Because Dottie Pepper put it brilliantly yesterday. She gave a really concrete example of just how steep one of the hills is, which is the walk down 11 to the base of Amen Corner. It's 14 stories is what she said. And now she knows that because she walks with 2 groups a day. That's friggin' brutal. That is really impressive.
Dottie's good at her job, too.
She's very good at her job. There's a weird dynamic between her and Ian Baker Finch where he's condescending and she has to fight back every day, and it's very annoying, and I don't know what that's about. Well, I can guess. But, she's talking about 14 stories of just that's one hole that you go down to 11, 12, and then you meander your way back up on 13, 14. But that gives you an idea of what the hills are like. Like Heileman has some nasty hills. Cap City has some nasty hills here. But that's another 14 stories. Good Lord.
Well, even when you walk in, first of all, when you walk in, it's just expansive. I mean, it's huge. You walk in, you're like, whoa. And then you see number one, and number one's cool, but that also has a hell of a hill. So you go walking along with somebody to go up that hill, you're like, holy moly, welcome to the party. There's no, you realize right then and there, okay.
Well, I mean, you think about it, how perched up the clubhouse is in your head. Now, again, I have not seen how the property lays out. I really can't wait to get out there just to see how the front 9 and back 9 holes intermingle, because there's some spots where you see 8 crosses by where 15 or 16, 17 are. You see 8T, it goes out the other way. 9 and 18 run up the same way. But you go way the hell down the hill on 10.
Yep.
And then you go way the hell down the hill again on 11 after climbing up off of 10. It's that low area. I understand why the grain all pulls towards 12, because good Lord, that thing's down like in a sinkhole relative to where you finish on the front and back 9.
There's the one giant tree out front that everybody does the interviews by. It's the same spot that everybody does the interviews by. And I got to stand there and talk to somebody who was covering the event at the time that I was there for SiriusXM with Trey. We had the press passes to go along with what he had because he had a player. So we got the best of all worlds, but we walked over there by that big ass oak or whatever. And we're sitting there and I'm watching each player walk up to do their interviews, and they're doing it with various outlets. Sky Sports was one. Tommy Fleetwood is standing right next to me. I'm almost in the shot with Tommy Fleetwood. And that was when Tommy Fleetwood was just coming on the scene. And, he, too, was a sweetheart of a guy, and he had just finished up a good round, so he was feeling good. But he was just talking casually about shots that he had. I was like, I wonder if it ever occurs to them how cool this is. I wonder if they're ever like, man, I just got done playing around here. I'm by this beautiful clubhouse. I'm going to go get good night's rest and come back out here and do it again today. And this is my life. This is what I do. This is my life. I have figured out a way to become one of the world's best golfers, and I'm playing at Augusta National.
Do you think Nick Dunlap appreciated that yesterday?
What did he shoot? 90?
90. Nick Dunlap shot a 90. Do you think he still appreciated things?
No.
Yeah.
No. I think if you're a top 200 in the world golfer competing for a living at the sport, your profession, your chosen profession, and you go out and shoot worse than I dare say many people we know would have shot under the same conditions, no, you're not feeling good about anything. You're looking inward. You're wondering whether or not you're cut out for this, because
Yep.
There are a lot of people listening to us right now, and we got to go to break. But I'm telling you, we know people, 100% we know people who, even under those conditions, meaning the course is set up for the pros this week, that would have broken 90, would have done better than 90 yesterday. We know those people.
You mentioned one of them. You were there at Augusta.
Oh, yeah.
Trey's breaking 90. Now they might have to steer it home. Some of the, and I'm not saying Trey specifically this part of it. They might have to steer it home for an 83 or an 84, but they can steer it home for an 83.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they're going to fall back on whatever shot they can hit reliably over and over again, and they're going to get up and give themselves a chance at a par putt. Yeah, they're not. Yeah.
When you see a number like that, you think, "Oh my God, did he card a 12 somewhere?" He didn't. He made doubles and bogeys. He shot 43 on the way out. He shot 47 coming home. I mean, good Lord.
Now, you would never withdraw from Augusta National, because they would take it as an affront to all that is holy in the world if you withdrew from Augusta National. But if you shot a 90, as he did, I think you could say, listen, guys, I gutted it out yesterday. I have a broken shoulder. I'm going home. And they would be like, oh, okay, well, that explains it. You could make up something insane. Like, guys, I didn't want to withdraw from your precious tournament because I am excited to be here. But midway through the round, I shattered my elbow and just played the rest of the way. So I'm going home now.
Freddie Couples could have spotted him a stroke a hole and still won.
Nick should withdraw is what I'm getting at. I think he should withdraw.
Bernhard beat him by 16.
Nick should withdraw from Augusta National this morning. He should call it a day for mental health reasons alone. It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
Time for a little red zone action. Love it. Thanks to our friends at Artisan Financial Strategies. Adam Tolliver and his crew, best in the business. They are Noles. At least he is. NolesRetirement.com, where you want to go to learn more. But obviously, you can help you and your family out planning for the future, making sure you have enough money to retire, that you aren't going to go broke as you travel the universe or wherever it is you're going. Also, planning all of this out eases the mind. So learn a little bit more about their expertise. NolesRetirement.com, as good as they get in this business, and I stand by them, and that's why we love partnering with them for the Red Zone. So let's do a little Red Zone, Tom. First down, fire away. I have no idea where you're going.
Welcome to the majesty.
Every freaking rep.
The elegance.
To win the game. Oh, he hits the upright. It's no good.
You have entered.
Someone burned down the funeral home. You burnt the funeral home.
Lives will be changed.
Sideline. Touchdown. Unbelievable.
Mothers will cry.
When you see your players give all that they have and you lose that way, it's tough.
Legacies are etched into eternity.
I know who I am.
North. South Dakota was his brother from West Virginia.
This is the Red Zone.
That's good to know.
Got any faith at all, Tom, that the new Naked Gun is going to work? I love Liam Neeson, and he is funny when he wants to be. He's great at those comedic roles, but I'm a little worried.
He's got a shot. He can deliver the dry humor in extras. He was excellent.
He was unreal in extras.
But I don't know, man. Leslie Nielsen's perfect. I don't like. You're really going to try and beat perfect? That's a tough deal. If that was first down, I'd say that would be a turnover. That's probably.
Oh man, coughed it up early.
If he's good though, I'll eat my words. That's such a high bar.
I think he'll be good. I could see why he would like the challenge. He was unreal in extras. I mean, unreal. The sitting across and asking if they could role play.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, listen, I don't have the time.
We're
Anyhow.
going to do improvisational humor.
Yeah.
Okay.
My favorite part of that is he says, he's like, I have full-blown AIDS. And he's like, again, AIDS is not really something that you can joke about. Oh, that is so good. Anyhow, go ahead. First down
on a scale of 1 to 10, Mike Norvell's addressing of the team, we talked about it a lot in hour 1. Scale of 1 to 10 improves your outlook after hearing Mike Norvell's pressers the last couple of weeks.
I want to be careful because I don't know that it changes what they can be in terms of they're lacking some talent. I mean, they don't have elite level talent. They may be good enough to win 8 games in the ACC and maybe good enough to get it turned around in a way that gives us some momentum moving forward, and all those things could be true. But I don't know that I'm going to extrapolate from his toughness and demanding approach that he's had this spring and somehow project them to win more than 8 games. So I don't think it really changes because I thought they were a 7 to 8 win team either way.
But yeah, you got to let all the transfers carry you, which again points back to the old issue, which is why does it have to be that all the transfers are the ones that carry you?
Always.
Yeah. Second down, if you had to pick, let's do it this way. One member of the secondary, not named Earl Little, to have a big season, who would that guy be?
Shouldn't it be Shaheem Brown? I mean, shouldn't it be?
Yeah. Do you believe that?
I think I do. I think that he'll take to the coaching he's getting now, and I think that they're going to have some fun on defense. I think that they're going to like stylistically playing this way. He's got a chance to cash an NFL check. He's freakish athletically in terms of length and size and all of that, and I'm going to go ahead and have some faith that he's going to have a big year because he's going to be asked to do an awful lot.
Yeah, he will be. That's where this defensive scheme, for example, Florida State got a 3-star out of the portal yesterday from Maryland. They already have 2 safeties committed. They like this kid at safety. He's a little slow-footed because he's a corner. He's too slow to be an outside corner. But in this defense, the safety, you're basically a safety linebacker hybrid. For Shaheem, that should be tailor-made to his skill set.
That's what I think too. I really believe that. I think, look, I almost said KJ Kirkland, but because he's same type thing you can get out of him. No, it's got to be Shaheem Brown. I'm going to go with Shaheem.
All right. Third down. If you had to pick a running back not named Chroma to be number 2 this year, who would the guy be?
The number 2 running back?
Not named Chroma, in terms of, the guy that you would lean upon.
I just don't love the room. What's weird is that, Tom, what am I supposed to do? I mean, Jalen Lucas, I think, is your most interesting running back / whatever he is, don't you think? I mean, I know that the answer's got to be probably Roydell Williams. Could be your guy, Keziah Holmes. I don't think there's any special in that room, so he's labeled a running back. I'm going to say Jalen Lucas, but he's not going to be a carry a game guy. So to better answer your question, it'll probably be a Roydell Williams.
Yeah, fair enough. That's the one who's gotten the most buzz out of camp so far. And it would be a compliment if Chroma is an explosive player, then you do need the guy who can get you 3 or 4 on first down, but he's going to have to bring the thunder. He did lose weight too. That was one thing that they were talking about is, remember, he caught the stray when there was the discussion about Cam Davis trimming the excess. Roy Dell's gotten in better shape. Just following up on that, did you notice that from high atop the scrimmage the other day?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, he may have. He was never – I mean, he was always, I thought, put together well. I didn't realize that he thought he was out of shape. He was 215 pounds. He's not a big guy. I mean, listen, I thought he was put together very well. He looks like he should be a better player. So let's get to the better player part. He looks the part. I'm sure. Maybe what's he down to 210? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, fourth down. We're going to pivot to the Masters. Of the following players, who finishes in best position, up higher on that leaderboard? Corey Connors, as we tape this, 4 under par. Tyrrell Hatton, as we tape this, 3 under par. Daniel Berger, 1 under par. Victor Hovland, 1 under. Shane Lowry, 1 under. So you've got Connors and Hatton and Berger, Hovland and Lowry. Who finishes in the best position?
Connors.
Okay. You are big on the Corey Connors thing.
He plays the course well. He's got a good course history there. He's having a good season. He's the pride of Canada. Yeah, I'm a big Corey Connors guy, buddy.
You said that like you're a resident of Ontario. He's the pride of Canada.
I like my Canadians, and I really like Corey Connors. He's a good player. And Corey Connors is near and dear to my heart. He's won me money numerous times. Corey Connors is this, who was the guy, Tom, that I wrote? Oh, Sung J M for about 2 years ago. 2 years ago, me and Sung J M, we were boys, me and Sung J, because I knew he was a cut-making Jesse every week. And for those that don't know, I'm in a draft. I'm in a bunch of leagues, but I'm in a draft every week in my main league. And the art of the draft is that you kind of want to pick a guy you think can win the tournament, a guy you think is going to finish in the top 25, and a guy that you know is going to make the cut. Because when you lose a guy on the weekend, you're screwed. You're not winning that week. You got to have your people make the cut. There have been times, it's like playing it safe, Tom. It's like just trying to guide it home, like you've said. When I've had a lead in this league, I've just drafted 3 dudes who have 0 chance to win, but will definitely make the cut. I've just gone, all right, you 3 sorry bitches will never win a tournament because you don't have what it takes. But you also never miss a cut. And I love you for it, and I'm going to pick you to be there this weekend, and I'm going to guide this puppy on home to a win. And it makes the other competitors mad at me. They're like, we see what you did. You took the 18th ranked, the 37th ranked, and the 46th ranked guy in the field, Jeff. And we all know you know the rankings, and we know what you're – I'm like, hey, don't let me build a lead. This is what I do. We're going to take it on home.
We're hitting the center of the green. That's all we're doing here. We're just hitting the center of the green. Come and get me.
We're keeping it in play. We're steering a bunch of pars to the house. We will finish 15 shots off the lead, but we will have all made the cut, and I will get my bonus points, and we are on our way.
Did you see Hideki Matsuyama wear it to the boys yesterday?
What?
So, well, not literally. On 13, he hit the stick and it kicked into the water, a la Tiger years ago.
He got screwed.
And he made double. It was going to be inside of 5 feet. He probably would have made birdie. It's a 3-shot swing through no fault of his own. Then on 18, he had one of the mother of horseshoes this side of Wyndham Clark you'll ever see on a 6-foot putt. Hideki, by all rights, should be 1 under or 2 under right now, and I think he ended up shooting 74.
Well, and he's one of the good guys at golf, so you hate to see – I hate when that happens to guys I really, really like. That sucks. And he is a very likable man. That stinks. I also marvel at how he pauses. I can't not watch it every time and think that is incredible.
Well, it goes to show you some things about the swing, too. That won't be a 5th down question. Is what do you think about stop drills? But you think about guys that stop, at least on the range, and they'll still hit max distance from a complete dead stop. It's just that Hideki breaks that out in the tournament.
And he does it perfectly. And then it's always just whoosh, flushed. It's always flushed. It's a thing of beauty. That's That's something to behold. Anyhow, do we have a fifth down? Or are we good?
No, but I can let you know that your former boy, Sunjay M, again, as we tape this, birdied the first. He's 2 under for the championship. Hey,
he's going to make the cut, Tom. He always does. He's Sung J freaking M. The other reason I like Sung J M is that he will make every cut and he will play every tournament. Sung J ain't taking a day off, baby.
No, he says he likes living out of a suitcase. He enjoys it. He enjoys living hotel to hotel. Okay.
I think he settled down now and bought a place somewhere in the States, but he did. He liked living hotel to a hotel to a hotel. he was asked about, like why he was playing some ridiculous tournament. Like nobody ranked in the top 50 in the world was playing in this one tournament. He was like, I like to play golf. I like to travel. I like to stay at these hotels. It's fine. I'm like, that's the simplest and best answer I've ever heard. Like, hey, if you ask somebody on the tour why they're playing the Lipton Open and they're in some little town like Quincy or something playing in this pro tournament, like, why are you here? You're ranked 7th in the world. He's like, I like to play golf. Fair enough, sir. Fair enough.
I like golf. And I got to tell you, I got a thing for hotels. There's something about it. There's something about it. I don't know. I think it's just because you can leave them. You just can leave the hotel and
And I sleep like a rock in here. Everybody sleeps well in a hotel usually. I mean, I sleep really well in a hotel. I mean, especially if I'm off the first floor, we're good. Anything second floor and above.
Well, that's the one place where all of the pillows are a good thing. Like, it's, oh man, I got one that I got to support this side of me. I'll throw one between my knees to help with that. Like. And then you come home, you're like, this is too many pillows. I don't understand. But at a hotel, you're like, this is great.
NoleRetirement.com. Our thanks to diehard Nole, intelligent, hardworking Adam Tolliver and his friends at Artisan Financial Strategies. Jeff Cameron Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV.
The Jeff Cameron Show, brought to you by Orange Theory Fitness. 2 Tallahassee locations, Midtown on Thomasville Road and Northside in the Village Common Shopping Center. Online at orangetheoryfitness.com.
Wrapping it up as we head to the weekend. We couldn't do that without at least alluding to some baseball, both the Noles. Let's go, boys. Let's go, boys. And, of course, MLB, if you would. Let's fire it up. It is time for some probables, good sir.
It's time for... how you say, with the pitching, probables?
Kansas City at Cleveland, and I'm going to sneeze if you'd like to whistle.
Well, I'm going to tell you about the Tampa Bay Lightning blowing it with Toronto the other night where they had a ton of chances. Now they're 3 points down with 4 games to play. So it looks like we're going to be hosting Florida the first round of the playoffs.
Hosting Florida and, forgive me, a war of a series is what that's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And if you survive it, you could win the Stanley Cup.
Yes, if you survive it, because you got to get through it and get through it healthy. That's going to be a problem because they're going to get Bennett back and Kachuk back. So lovely.
Kansas City at the Guardians. Chris Bubik, Tanner Bibby. Bubik and Bibby. Pirates, Reds. Screw you, Lulu. Bailey Falter goes for the Pirates. Brady Singer goes for the Reds. The Reds are 5-8. The Pirates are 5-8. Enjoy the ball game, everybody. Braves, Rays, Bryce Elder, Taj Bradley. The Braves are 3-9, not up to the standard of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Giants, Yankees, that would be Robbie Ray.
Hey.
Back at it, Robbie Ray. 2-0 with a 3.18. Yankees are throwing Marcus Stroman. 0-0 with a 7.27. We got the Blue Jays and the Orioles. That would be Bowden Francis. Cheats at golf.
Yeah, he actually is a Nole. That is what you think it is for a first name, named after Bobby.
Bowden Francis. Tomoyuki Sugano goes for the Orioles. He's 1-1 with a 2.89. Nationals, Marlins. 7 people at the ballpark today in Miami, you think? Between the Nats and the Marlins?
Yeah, maybe 2 people outside of concession workers.
Michael Parker goes for the Nationals, who's really good, apparently. And TBD goes for the Marlins. Red Sox, White Sox, Sean Newcomb and Davis Martin. Tigers, Twins, Reese Olson, David Festa. Festa's got to be a guy who parties. Angels, Astros, Are there more new pitchers in the league than ever before? I mean, look at this slate today, Tom. Jack cocking the wickets.
What?
Jack cocking the wickets?
Cocking the wickets?
Cocking the wits? That's him. Ronald Blanco. That's the guy's name.
It's from now on. I can't wait for Jack cocking the wickets day.
Aaron Nola is going to go for the Phillies. The Cardinals will throw Andre Palante. Rangers, Mariners, Jacob deGrom.
I take it to beer.
There it is.
Yeah.
I take it to beer. Bryce Miller. I wonder where I take it the beer is. I hope he's doing well.
I think he's right where we left him. I think he's right there, and he's won Employee of the Month like 27 months in a row.
And they should give him a raise. I like him. Bryce Miller going for the Mariners. Rockies, Padres, Herman Marquez, Nick Pivetta, Brewers, D-backs, TBD, Eduardo Rodriguez. Mets, Athletics. Why did I not know that you guys signed Griffin Canning?
Yeah, I told you. Yeah, he made the team because of all the injuries. He's actually been okay so far.
He has. He's starting tonight for the 8-4 Mets against the lowly Sacramento Athletics. JP Sears goes. At least, Tom, when you watch your Mets late tonight, you'll get to see a really cool uniform because the A's uniform is still really cool. Cubs, Dodgers, Matthew Boyd, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto going for the Dodgers, who, by the way, I think lost 3 of the last 4. What's going on in L.A.? Hit the panic button. And that is a look at those that shall reside on the bump. It is funny. The Dodgers proving that baseball is baseball. Loaded at every position. Deepest rotation in all of baseball. Superstars 1 through 9. Losers of 3 of 4.
Did you close the tab yet with the probables? Or are you still looking at them?
No, I can still look at them.
So Jack cocking the wickets, is he good?
Jack is 1-0 with a 3.27.
Okay, so we're going to get a few more Jack cocking the wickets days.
And for those at home that are going to protest the pronunciation, I will tell you that it is spelled Kochanowizz. CZ. So, Coconowitz.
I think it's Coconowitz. I had no idea. When you said KOCH, I went, uh-oh, what? That's not. That's. It was an honest attempt. You can't fine us for an honest attempt.
Yeah. Coconowitz.
In the wickets is the best.
Yeah. Cock in the wickets going tonight. Good old get him, Jack. Get him, Jack. Oh, that's fun. That's fun. Anyhow, did I do the right thing with the ribbon? Did I say? And that is look at those that shall reside on the bump. I think I did now. You guys have a great weekend. We'll be back in full force for you on Monday with the live video, YouTube, the whole thing in studio, all that good stuff. Until then, yeah, didn't that sound nice? Peace.